Today we are going to be making chicken barley soup. And of course, the first thing we need to do is make our chicken broth. So we've got all the ingredients in. We're going to put the lid on, and this is going to simmer for probably about 3 hours. If I didn't mention it before when we got started with this, this is a recipe that we really enjoy. The whole family really likes this one. It's something that you could add noodles to at the end to make it go a little further if you want, but I find the barley in it and the chicken really gives a nice, dense, hearty wintertime soup. We're going to start with the chicken broth. Now, I've kind of skipped ahead here. Basically what we did was, if you're not using store-bought chicken broth or already canned, we cooked down a whole chicken and a bunch of bones in our pot with 8 liters of water. And since then, I've let that cool overnight and skimmed the top for any excess grease or fat. Normally I wouldn't do that if I was just using the bones, but because I cooked a whole chicken, there was a little bit that needed to be skimmed. But it's since been strained, and we'll show you where we're at with that. Here is our soup, our broth, our chicken broth here. You can see nice, thick, good yellow color. It's quite a strong chicken broth. I like mine that way. You could dilute it with a little bit more water if you needed. But this is an extremely simple pressure canning recipe. Now, when I make a recipe, I like to make a lot. Now, this is just a regular soup recipe that I've kind of made to be a canning recipe. And with that, I get 7 quart jars or 1 liter jars, plus enough left over for a meal. That's how I like to operate, because if I'm going to all the work to cook it, I don't want to also have to cook dinner. So we're starting off with our 8 liters of broth and going to go into all the rest of the ingredients now. So one thing I would recommend is make sure you got your jars in your oven sterilizing at this point, because this is very fast. Once this gets boiling, you only need it to boil for 10 minutes and then it needs to go into your jars. So we start with 6 cups of sliced carrots. You could do them chunks if you like. I'm kind of always take the easy way, and I use my food processor. It cuts really nice size rings. So without splashing the camera, carrots are in. 4 cups of diced up onions. Again, I use my food processor, so they are quite small. You can kind of cut these by hand to whatever size suits your fancy. This is just how we do it because it's quick and easy. Whoa, sorry about that. So that's all in. Celery, 3 cups. This is where I say it's a really nice hearty soup, very similar to chicken noodle. To be honest, you could use it as chicken noodle and just leave out the barley if you really wanted. Another thing that we have done is using rabbit instead of chicken. So if you raise rabbits, this is a great recipe. It's very versatile. It works fantastic with rabbit as well. 2 cups of barley. Pearl barley. We've rinsed this all in the pot. Now at this point, the only thing you really don't want to add to this yet is your chicken, because your chicken is pre-cooked. So at this point we have our carrots, onions, celery, and chicken broth in the pot. We're going to add 2 good-sized tablespoons of sea salt, pickling salt, kosher salt, just needs to be uniodized. 2 teaspoons of basil. I usually go heaping because I like my soups to be quite flavorful. 2 teaspoons of savory. Again, I go quite heavy on the seasoning. And 2 good-sized teaspoons of pepper. And really, that's all that's in there, except for our 6 cups of chicken that we're going to add once it is going. You just want to put the chicken in right before you can it up. Like I say, this is a pressure canning recipe, so you're going to still be cooking this. You do not want these veggies cooked right through. You're just getting it to a boil and getting it into the jars. So we'll bring you back when we've got it boiling and ready to go into our jars. So we are at a good rolling boil. I've turned the heat down. This has been going on now for about 3-4 minutes. So we're now going to dump in our 6 cups of chicken pieces and kind of stir that around, get it back up to the boil, and then we're going to jar it. No need to wait after that. Let's see if I can do this without burning us. Safety first. There we go. I'll just give that a little stir just so you can see it. It's not even going to stop boiling, but oh, look at that. Gorgeous, gorgeous, thick, hearty soup. So here we are ready to can. We've got our pressure canner next to us here. It's on another element with, it's on a low heat just to try and get that 3 liters of water that's in there starting to heat up. Jars sterilized in the oven for 10 minutes at 225. So here we go. It's starting to kind of stick to the bottom. You got to be careful about that if you've got it on any sort of high heat. But basically we're just going to fill them to 1 inch from the top. You want 1 inch of headspace, and then they're going to be going into the pressure canner. All right, so we're on our 7th jar here. When you pressure can, you just want finger tight. So you should easily be able to undo it again. So just finger tight, no wrenching it or anything like that, because you want it to be able to release in there. And then in we go, our last jar. And then we're going to put our lid on. I've oiled my gasket. Find my arrows, sorry I'm cutting in front. And put it on. And it's going to sit there. We're going to turn it up a little bit higher. And we're going to wait for steam to be coming out the top. We're going to get this ready. It needs to pressure can for 90 minutes. And then we'll bring you back when they're ready to go. But one thing I did want to show here quickly is this is what was remaining. This is lunch or dinner for tomorrow. Basically, I probably could have made another jar and still had some left over. But we tend to, for a family of 4, open 2 jars anyway. So this is going to be perfect. So one thing we thought to add while we're waiting for the pressure canner to get up to temperature is if you're going to be making this with rabbit, it turns out amazing, really very little difference. But you're still going to need that broth, whether it's chicken broth, whether you make rabbit broth or a rabbit chicken combination broth. But you still will need the chicken broth to go with the rabbit meat. We're just subbing out the chicken meat for rabbit meat. Otherwise, the recipe is exactly the same.